Welcome. This is the Fayetteville Robotics Vex V5 Connections tutorial. This tutorial is going to walk you through how to connect your V5 electronics into a working system. Today we're going to start with just your raw materials. Today I have a piece of Vex metal. Mine happens to be this size, yours may be different. I have one motor. I have a Vex V5 Cortex or brain. I have one Vex V5 connection cable. I have a gear. I have several axles or shafts. I have a crank handle. I have several shaft collars. And then I also have a selection of bolts and nuts that we'll use. And finally, I have a Vex V5 battery and its cable. In order to put a system like this together, it's fairly simple. The first thing we'll do is make sure that our motor is connected properly to our metal. In order to do that, we'll need a pair of pieces called bearing flats. Bearing flats are these small pieces of plastic. They come in a variety of shapes and sizes. This happens to be a 3-length bearing flat. This one happens to be a single length. It has a spot for an axle here in the round hole, and then it has a spot for a nut here. Today, we're going to be using this standard bearing flat. Yours may look a little different. So the first thing we'll do is we need to align our motor on our metal. To do that, we're going to set it on one side, just like this, so that the screw holes match up against our holes here. On the opposite side, you can see the screw holes here. I'm going to take my bearing flat and set it on top of those spots. Finally, I'm going to take a screw and just by hand insert it gently and begin turning. And I'll do that for both of the screw holes in the motor. You do not need to screw these very hard to get them to hold. Once you've gone most of the way in by hand, you can use an Allen key to finish tightening them. And again, you do not need to over tighten them because you'll have to undo these later on. Now, my motor is firmly attached to my piece of metal. You can tell that it doesn't move. I'm going to set this aside. Next up, we want to connect our electronics. We're going to start with our Vex V5 Cortex. Your Cortex may look a little different. They do have a removable face shield. You always want to leave this attached unless you're actively using the device. This protects the screen and prevents damage. On one end, you'll notice there's a series of connections. This here, the sequence of 4 squares, is our battery connector, which matches up to our battery connector cable. So we'll go ahead and we'll plug this in, just like that. Remember, when you need to remove it, there is a tab that you must press and squeeze in order for it to come out safely. Don't just yank. The other end of our battery connector will connect to our battery. It has the same 4 squares that line up. We'll snap that in. On these batteries, to test their charge, you can press the small button and it will light up. For the purposes of this class, even one green light is plenty of electricity for what we're doing. And you'll notice that my Cortex has turned on because it has power. That's great. That's what we need. Next, we need to go ahead and connect our Cortex to our motor. That's done using this short cable. To connect, we will plug one end of the cable into our motor. You may not have heard it on the video, but it should make a small click when it comes in. You'll also notice that for our motor, there's a small plastic tab on our cable. When we need to remove this cable, we're not going to yank. We need to squeeze that cable to pull it out. That safely removes the cable without damaging both the cable and the motor. I'll insert this again and set it aside. The other end of the cable will plug into any one of our spots. It's suggested that you start out using slot number 1. Each slot has a red number marking it, and I'll go ahead and plug in to slot number 1. Now, my Cortex is connected to my motor. Finally, we're going to attach an axle shaft and a gear to this motor. To do that, we'll take one axle and we'll insert it in the round hole. As you go in, what you want to do is push it down far enough that it seats in the motor. I'll then take my gear and attach it on top. In order to keep the gear in place, I'm going to take one of these shaft collars, which are small plastic and rubber pieces, and I'm going to put it over my axle and slide it down. This prevents my gear from coming off. Now, please note, it does not prevent the axle from coming out of the motor. If I come here, I can just pull the whole thing out. It's not connected permanently. That part of that is a safety feature to make sure that we don't damage the pieces. As we come in, we want to make sure it is fully seated. To do that, you'll insert the axle, and with a gear or something, what you'll do is turn the gear and you'll listen for the motor. You should hear sort of a low hum sound as you spin it. That indicates that your axle is in the motor and connected. If you don't hear that and there's no resistance when you turn, you'll need to wiggle and push the axle in until it connects to the motor. Congratulations! This is how you build a basic setup with Vex V5 equipment. It gets more complicated from here, but the basic techniques are the same. You always want to have 2 screws holding your motor on and a bearing flat, those pieces of plastic in here, in between anywhere an axle passes through metal. The reason for that is because it keeps the axle from wiggling around in these square holes. But that's it. That's the basics of putting together a V5 geared device or anything else with Vex V5 equipment.